Pfizer and BioNTech's coronavirus vaccine is now in Jacksonville, and frontline workers are receiving their first dose. At some point, the vaccine will be made available for the general public, including Jacksonville's African American population, a community the virus has greatly impacted. But does that mean every African American is willing to take it?
News for Jackson reporter Eric Avanier joining us live tonight. And Eric, I know you spoke with some people from the community tonight. What is their answer to that question?
Well, the answer to that question from many people we spoke to is no. And based on the people we spoke with, they say the reluctance to taking the vaccine is based solely on lack of trust. According to the CDC, African Americans are 4 times as likely to be hospitalized for a COVID-19 infection compared to white Americans. And the COVID-19 death rate is twice as high in blacks compared to whites. But now that the process has begun to distribute the COVID-19 vaccine, reaction among African Americans I spoke with is mixed when it comes to taking the vaccine.
At the rate a lot of us passing, I think we need it.
I would take it, but then I ain't saying I'm going to be the first person get it.
I don't like to put anything on my body that I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Community activist Ben Frazier says he is all for rolling the dice and trusting science enough to take the vaccine. And given the facts that so many blacks have died from COVID-19, he is encouraging every African American to take the vaccine as soon as it becomes available to the public. But at the same time, he says many African Americans might not readily trust the vaccine based on what happened in Tuskegee, Alabama in 1932.
I think the experiments taken against black people with regard to syphilis and Tuskegee Airmen in the past would be the reason for so many people having some reluctance or hesitance or inhibitions about taking this vaccine.
According to the FDA, the most common side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine is fatigue, headaches, chills, joint and muscle pain. But given those facts, trust is still an issue to Lindsey Brookins, who is at a high risk of COVID-19 complications because of his age and respiratory problems.
Like I said, I ain't want to be the first one. But then again, if it's a million taking it, hey, and they doing all right, I'm going to take it.
No, actually, several people we spoke with tonight say they are also holding off on taking the vaccine until they see how healthcare workers fare after taking it. Reporting live, Eric Avanier, Channel 4, the local station.
Amen. God bless everybody. We want to welcome you tonight to our program, which we're calling What the Spirit Says. Tonight, we want to talk about a great public issue that's going on in our community, in particular with those of us in the black and brown community. We all know exactly basically what's going on, but what we need to know is, I believe that we need to be informed as far as what to do. Even as you saw just now in that PSA there, that we said that a lot of people are confused, a lot of people are afraid, and what we want to do is to do what we can tonight here to put forth some information, to put forth some education as much as we can. As of today, even as we said, over 300,000 plus Americans have died from this pandemic, this virus. The majority of those being black and brown people, mainly due to underlying health issues, due to systemic disparities in healthcare. We know that black and brown people are disproportionately affected, being almost 4 times more likely to get the virus and 3 times more likely to die from this same virus. Now, at this time, we have Moderna and Pfizer, who in record time have developed a vaccine, which is now in the process of being disseminated throughout the country. Yet some 50% of our people, for various reasons, the legitimate reasons and concerns, say that they won't receive the virus. Now, our purpose here tonight is to do what we can to educate our people in order that they can make an informed, a logical, and science-based decision as to whether or not to receive this vaccine. I believe that the greatest tools that we have at our disposal towards making an informed decision is information and self-education. Therefore, tonight I've encouraged and asked a couple of brothers here in our community to come by and to help us in this discussion, to help us to inform and to educate the community. And we want to thank you all for joining us here tonight, encouraging and asking that you would go ahead and share to those friends of yours, those on your timeline. Share and let them know that tonight there's some information going forth that they may be needing information to try to set them at ease. And so tonight, what I want to do, I want to introduce our guests by name, and then I'm going to ask them if they would just give a little background on themselves, the work that they are doing. Beginning first of all with a good friend of mine, Dr. Jeffrey Cousins. Dr. Cousins, God bless you. How are you tonight, my brother?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine. Would you introduce yourself to the people?
Yes, I'm Dr. Jeffrey Cousins. I'm from McDowell County, West Virginia, the southern part of the state. I grew up there as the youngest of 11 children. My father was a coal miner there in Keystone, West Virginia for about 35 years. Subsequent to that, we moved away to Michigan. And from Michigan, I went to the University of Pennsylvania for undergraduate school and the University of Michigan for medical school. Subsequently did general surgery and cardiothoracic surgery fellowship and have been practicing cardiothoracic surgery here in West Virginia since 2005. Currently, I practice at Camden Clark Medical Center in Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Cousins. Thank you for being with us here tonight. We also have the Reverend James Patterson. Reverend Patterson, God bless you, my brother.
Thank you. You should have let me go first, man.
That's all right, brother. I'm sure you can
follow that. No, but I'm Reverend James Patterson, and I've been in West Virginia since 1971. I came here to go to a technical school, subsequently finished that, some other schools, and ended up meeting a wonderful West Virginia woman and getting married, and we've been married for 41 years. I just retired from the pastorate at the Institute Church of the Nazarene, where I pastored there for 31 years. And about 20 years ago, Reverend Hill was a part of this. We founded an organization called the Partnership of African American Churches. And so I'm still the current and the only CEO that organization has ever had. And currently we are involved in this pandemic fight in terms of trying to do some things around healthcare, which we have been doing for quite some time. To said simply, we are a licensed and qualified behavioral health and mental health and substance use disorder provider here in the state of West Virginia, and we're branching that out to some primary care as well.
Amen. Amen. I want to say I appreciate you, brothers, for being here tonight. Dr. Cousins, first of all, I want to say to you, I went to McDowell County myself, or I have one of those McDowell County young ladies. Amen. So I know a good bit about McDowell County, at least for the last 22 years. Amen.
Excellent.
I appreciate that. And Reverend Patterson, God bless you, man. You said you're the only CEO that PAC has ever had, and I want to say without question, you're the best that we've ever had as well.
I appreciate
that. Well, listen, tonight we want to try to do what we can. As I said, I believe there's a lot of fear out there within our community. When I say our community, I mean the Black and brown community. I believe the fear is because of misinformation or miseducation. And I believe that it could be that there's an opportunity out there that we may miss. And if we miss this opportunity, we may end up paying for it one way or another. Or it may be one that we need to let go by. But I believe that it's a decision that each and every one of us individually is going to have to make. And I believe that the more information we have, the better we can be at making that decision. And so tonight, what my purpose is to do what we can to try to put out information there that people are going to need, to let people know exactly what we are doing. And I believe that you brothers here tonight are those who can help us to do just that. So according to our format, as we talked to beforehand, what I'd like to do is I'd just like to put a few questions out there. And I want you to answer the question, but I want you to do what you can to educate and inform. Amen. The question is just to lead you where we want to go, but you take it where we need to go. So first thing what I want to do, I want to ask, in your opinion, can we, and if so, should we trust this vaccine or these vaccines that are now here? There's a lot of mistrust, and for various reasons, even as we said, political reasons, personal reasons, But the bottom line is, can we trust this vaccine that is out there now? We'll start with Reverend Patterson, if you don't mind.
Well, I will talk a little bit about my own personal journey as it relates to the vaccine, where I am now. A few months ago, I've been on the governor's task force, the African American task force for COVID-19. And so I think it was a couple of months ago, there were a couple of physicians that came in and they were talking about the virus, talking about the vaccine. And this was even before it was released. And so they asked me, would I take it? And I told them at that point, no, I wouldn't. And I told them that I would be in the third cohort. But that was then. And my main reason for feeling that way was because I felt that our president was pushing to get the virus, to get the vaccine released and ready to try to help him in his reelection. So I wasn't going to play that game. But where I am now is that I would definitely take the vaccine, and I'm definitely going to take it. I've tried to, and Reverend Hill, you know this, I tried to get in the cohort with West Virginia Council of Churches and some other community leaders that are going to be afforded the vaccine next week, I believe. And so I'm in a place now where I would definitely take the vaccine for me, for myself. And as we go on, I'll share the reasons why I would do that.
Okay, Dr. Cousins, same question. Can we trust this vaccine, and why should we?
Yes, the vaccines that we have available, there's basically two, and Pfizer has already had theirs out, and people have already been injected with the Pfizer vaccine. And as of today, Moderna has received emergency use authorization as well. And, there's several different types of vaccines, but so far the only two that are available that are going to be widely dispersed in the short run are going to be the Moderna and the Pfizer. And both of these are what they call messenger RNA vaccines, meaning they're going to take what the vaccine is designed to do is to train your own body's immune system to be able to fight off the virus in the event you run into the virus. It's sort of like the surveillance system around your house. It's always looking to see if anybody out of the way or any foreign entity is trying to invade your property. And that's what your immune system does. And so what these viruses are going to do is get into your cells with a little bit of the genetic code for COVID-19. It's then going to cause the body to produce some memory cells so that when and if you come into this virus, your body will be able to easily recognize it as foreign and rev up your immune system so you can fight it off without becoming ill. And so I think these viruses are safe. There's tens of thousands of people who have already been inoculated with the vaccine, is what I meant to say. The vaccine is safe. And there's been tens of thousands of people who have been inoculated. And so far, there have only been a few adverse reactions, which have basically been some allergies. More so than that, primarily people have had a little pain at the injection site, maybe some muscle aches, a little fever, and that's been the primary reports. So I think, yes, we can trust it. I think it is safe to take. And then the problem is the alternative. The alternative is the potential exposure to COVID or the expense, to be infected by the virus itself. And the problem with being infected by the virus itself is we still don't know a lot about the virus. And this is a type of virus, it's something different than anything I've seen before, where one person can have the virus and not even know they have it and then continue to spread it. And the person next to them can get that virus and die from that virus. And so I think that since we have so little information of exactly what this virus may do to any one individual, I think it's much safer to take the vaccination and try to get enough people vaccinated so that this virus can stop spreading. Because the numbers, as you said, there's over 300,000 deaths I mean, that's a lot of people that's going to be missing from your holiday this year and for the future. And they say that 2 times to 3 times the death rate in the Black community versus the white community. So this virus is ravishing Black and brown people more so than other people. So I think that, you still have to wear your mask. You still need the social distance. I think everybody who does not live in your house should not be at your house for this holiday season because it's just too dangerous. I think we got to wait this thing out, take the vaccine, and continue to do the other measures that we have to try to cut down on some of the numbers of deaths that we're having. This is really something that's really amazing in the United States of America to have 25% of the COVID cases and deaths and only be about 14 or 4% of the world's population.
Okay. Amen. I appreciate that, brothers.
Reverend Hill, could I add something to
Yes,
what
sir.
Dr. Cousins just said?
Go right ahead.
One of the main challenges that we have too is the median age at which people of color, particularly young African American men, are contracting this disease. And so a couple months ago, it was 28 years old. That's the median age. And so Dr. Cousin talked about some of the challenges that this disease brings. So just think of it, if it's 5%, 7%, or 8% who have these severe long-term adverse challenges, health problems. So now that median age is up to around 33. But that's still, and for white people, it's 44. So that still says that if I catch this virus as a young African American male, and I'm 33 years old, and I live to 70, and it doesn't kill me, look how long that I'm going to have to deal with continual health problems and some of the challenges that Dr. Cousin can talk about. So that's another reason that one of the things that really bothers me is the fact that we catch this disease or we contract this disease at such a young age as people of color.
Okay. And you know what? I think that's one of the terms that's being thrown around out there now is COVID fatigue. People are tired of wearing masks. People are tired of social distancing, and people are because of naturally being tired. People are starting to be lax in the precautions that we should be taking. We're starting to group together again. We're starting to cross over those boundaries and such once again. No longer really looking at the risks that we are taking as serious as we can. What message should we be sending out there, and how hard should we be hitting that as far as trying to get our people to see that this thing is real? It's not something that we should be playing with, and we got to keep ourselves. Dr. Cousins, what message should we be getting? How hard should we be hitting that?
We're extremely hard. And, forget about COVID fatigue. You got to just kind of suck it up and deal with it. We're in the worst time of this pandemic right now. Over 3,000 people are dying each day in some instances from this. Hospitalizations are higher. Some places don't even have any more hospital beds from in Southern California. And so if you find yourself uptight about wearing a mask, look on the internet and look at some of these people's loved ones who have died. Look at people on ventilators. Look at people who are in prone position to try to get some oxygenation, ventilation to their lungs. And look at all of the lives. Over 300,000 lives have been lost. And so you have to, one, realize how blessed you are. If you're in a position that you think that this is still a hoax, means you haven't had it yet. And so I think that you have to be very careful. I think we have to kind of, do Christmas and Kwanzaa and New Year's Eve on Zoom or on this type of a StreamYard or some type of media. And we have to avoid congregating in groups. What you got to recognize now, I think they say 1 in 216 Americans now have COVID. So anywhere you go, COVID is there. It's a matter of whether or not you're going to contract it because you're staying safe distance, you're wearing your mask, you're keeping your hands out of your face or not. But there's very few places you can go. And here in West Virginia, we've got some hot spots. Wood County, where I'm at here, Kanawha County, Monongalia County, where Morgantown is located. And so you are playing a very serious game with your life if you gather more than just a couple of people. If you gather with people more than what's in your immediate household, you need to social distance, wear a mask. They talk about if you're gathering, keep the music low so people don't have to talk loud so that they don't expel more spittle and stuff from their mouth. But if you're going to go to that type of extreme, stay at home. Call people on the telephone, write them a letter, save your life, save your family's life, and wait until you've got the vaccine, and hope that you're here next Christmas for celebration. But I think this year you kind of got to set it out.
Amen. Reverend Patterson?
And that's one of my reasons for taking the vaccine. I want to get back to normal. A while back when the virus was first getting started, there's a saying, estimated time of arrival. I had created this term, estimated time of touching. And so that was the time that I was going to be able to touch my grandkids again. Because my daughter-in-law is a registered nurse, and she and my son, they are really serious about this COVID. They weren't taking any chances at all. They were doing all the safety factors, including, my grandkids would come over, but they would kind of stand over in the corner. And I want to get my life back to normal. And if taking a vaccine that I believe, I just heard a doctor who has no dog in the fight to tell me anything that isn't true or to tell us anything that isn't true, say that he thinks it's safe from a scientific perspective. So I'm saying just from a family perspective and from caring for my loved ones' perspective and wanting to get back to some sense of normalcy at some point toward the end of next year, maybe, that, hey, I'm going to take the vaccine. I don't care what other folks are talking about and some of the things that they're talking about, the past experimentation on people of color. I can't fix that. I can't do anything about that. My wife got several checks a few years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And the checks were because her grandfather was in the Tuskegee experiment. And so the last check she got, we put it up somewhere. And since this pandemic, we've been trying to find a check because it's a keepsake. It's a relic of the past. And it brings to our attention what happened in the past. But I'm not concerned about it. I can't fix it. I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is take care of myself, take care of my family, and be a part of trying to get the vaccine rolled out to other people, to all people of color. Because I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not making any money off of it. I just want to see our people safe. That's all I'm after.
Amen. Reverend Patterson, I think you're hitting your mic. We're getting a lot of feedback from your mic there. If you back up just a little bit off of it. Dr. Cousins, I've got a question from those tuning in. I got a question here, and I'm going to put it up on the screen so you can see it here. Ms. Pryor asked the question, what about the folks that are in stage 4 COPD? Have you heard anything about how this virus is affecting such people?
Yes, so the virus is particularly bad on anybody with any pre-existing lung problems because especially early on, that was one of the primary areas that we were seeing changes within chest x-rays and CAT scans. There was large amounts of inflammatory process going on with the lungs, and particularly lots of pneumonia. And so if you've got stage 4 COPD, you have to be very careful not to get this virus. And so I would meet with my pulmonologist. If you've got stage 4 COPD, hopefully you have a pulmonologist that you meet with who knows you and have been giving you medications to try to slow down this COPD. I would meet with them, or at least by telephone right away, and get their recommendations. I'm pretty sure they're going to push you to get vaccinated so that you will not get the virus itself, because I think the virus itself will be very deadly for someone not just with stage 4, but with even with any COPD, it's a very deadly issue for getting this virus.
Okay. Now we know that ultimately it's up to each individual to make the decision as to whether or not they're going to get this take this vaccine or not. Who should we be trusting? Where should we be looking to get the information as to make this decision before we either say yes or no? I'm talking about our own personal physicians, our clergy, community leaders. Who should we be looking to in order to make this an informed and an educated decision? Pastor Patterson, would you start us off there?
Well, I want to say that PAC, the Partnership of African American Churches, we've received some funding from the DHHR, and so we have received this funding to do surge testing in communities of color across the state. So we'll have 4 teams. There'll be one located in Jefferson County, one in Marion County. There'll be 2 in Kanawha County. However, one of those teams will be a quick response team. For example, a pastor called today and asked when could we come and do a testing at their church. And so we're going to have the quick response team to go there on Sunday and do some testing. Along with the testing, we are going to be able to provide flu vaccines for anyone that wants a flu shot. And then once Moderna is out, we have a commitment from DHHR that they will have some vaccine for us, so that while we're in the community doing all of the other things that we're providing, we'll be able to provide the vaccine as well. So, I don't have any choice, because if I'm there with one of the teams and someone says, well, Rev Patterson, did you take the vaccine? I want to be able to say, yes, I took it, and I took it for all the right reasons. So that's going to be an outlet, and that's one of the things that the state is trying to do, is because they know of the disproportionality as it relates to people of color and the detrimental impact that it's having on our communities, the excessive death rates and all those things. So we as an organization are going to be one of the organizations, or one of the outlets in the community where a person can get the vaccine if he or she chooses. And we will also have some educational materials and an opportunity for people to talk to the LPN or the RN, whoever's there at the time. And we've also decided to try to be at each location 2 days, so that if the person comes on the first day and gets some educational material, wants to go home and think about it, and come back the next day and decide to take it, then we want to try to stay in a location 2 days. Now, I don't know how that's going to work, but that's our plan in terms of being there 2 days.
Okay, Dr. Carson.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Because of the scarcity of the vaccine and the limited amount that may be available to your community, my thought would be, as soon as you hear an announcement that it's available and anywhere close to you, I would get in line and take it as soon as it becomes available, because you don't know when you're going to run out, when resources are going to be, short. And so I wouldn't delay. Specifically, if I have any type of pre-existing condition, obesity, diabetes, lung disease, heart disease, any previous type of issues that I may be dealing with that would set me up to be more vulnerable to having complications and or death from catching COVID-19. And so I would say, if Pastor Patterson has it first, get in his line. If Walgreens has it, get in their line. If CAMC passes it out, get in their line. I would get in whoever line I can get in as soon as I can get in there, because the alternative, this virus is everywhere. Look at the maps. Even in West Virginia, we were late to get it, but we've got our share of it now, and the numbers continue to go up. And every day there's more hospitalization, there's more death, and there's more people that's catching it. So I think, January, I think it's going to be a really miserable time unless you turn your TV off and try to tune it out altogether. But I think otherwise, I would take the vaccine wherever I can get it as soon as I can get it.
Okay. Reverend Patterson, I want to make sure that we all heard you right. You said PAC is going to have access shortly to the vaccine itself. Am I correct?
We are going to have access to it as soon as it is made available to us. And I don't know what that date is. I do know that we are waiting until the Moderna vaccine is readily available because it does not require the sub-zero temperature in terms of storage. So, as Dr. Cousins said earlier, we're still waiting for the officials to say to Moderna that I know they had it reviewed yesterday, but I don't know whether the go-ahead has been given at this point. And then once that happens, then we have to go through the regular chain. So, Reverend Hill and audience, I don't know exactly when PAC will have the vaccine in our possession, but I do know we will have it at some point. And as soon as we get it, we will make it known. And we won't be in one place per se, but we'll be going throughout the state with our teams, and we will have it available at that point. And I will say that this is one of Bill Crouch's concerns as well, in terms of, and he's the secretary of DHR, and I'm not singing their praises, but I'm just saying that the detrimental impact that this virus is having on communities of color is being talked about and is being brought up.
Moderna was approved here within the past few hours. They've received their authorization.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. So that means we're one step closer.
Yeah, just a side note, the hesitancy to get the vaccine, I understand it. But, I get it myself. I've taken all types of vaccines over time, from chicken pox to measles, mumps, rubella, hepatitis, tetanus. My son and I decided we were going to Africa last year, and to even get a visa to go into Ghana, we had to take a yellow fever vaccine. When we were down at the Kanawha County Health Department, the girl there was a good salesman, and she pitched us on typhoid, so we took typhoid at the same time, even though it was not required. And then we went to the pharmacist and took mefloquine tablets for anti-malarial prophylaxis. And so I know folks out there who are in the military. I know the military inoculate and vaccinate soldiers from all types of things because they're sending them all over the world to where sometimes things are endemic. And if you don't get the vaccination, you go there and you get sick, and you'll likely succumb to that illness right away. And so I think, despite the hesitancy, you also have to use some degree of common sense, and in particular with a disease that's ravaged the entire world like COVID-19 and has taken over 300,000 lives right here in the United States of America. I think that in addition to the other things that we're able to use to try to fight this virus, like masks and hand washing and distancing, I think that this vaccine is available. It's going to be safer to take it than to take the risk of catching COVID-19 and then not knowing how it's going to actually treat your body. But there's been a lot of healthy people with no pre-existing conditions that have also succumbed to this COVID. And I've known a few of them, and just like as Reverend Patterson said, younger and younger African-American men are getting this disease and oftentimes having significant problems and dying from it. And the more time passes, the more and more I'm seeing, particularly on Facebook and other social media, more and more younger men that are passing away from this virus.
Okay. I got another question here from one of our viewers, and the question here basically it's from Miss Petty, and she asked the question: what's the difference between the two vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna? What is and is there a difference?
Both of those vaccines are what they call synthetic messenger RNA vaccines. There's very little difference in them. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot of difference in any vaccine and what it's designed to do. It's basically designed that once you get a little inoculation of that particular virus or bacterium or what have you, that your body will make antibodies itself to against this foreign material. It will then maintain memory of it, so that when this foreign material you encounter it again, when you encounter this virus again, your body can quickly respond to it based on the memory cells that it has. And that's what all these vaccines are designed to do. The Pfizer one, I think, is the one that caused, as Reverend Patterson saying, well, you need to keep it a lot colder. That's because the messenger RNA is a very fragile material. And once it sets your cells up to replicate, it basically degenerates pretty fast, and it doesn't stick around. But there's no major difference in the modality or the type of vaccine that Moderna and Pfizer are, and those are the only two that are available, probably the only two that are going to be available anytime soon. The messenger RNA vaccines, they're pretty much the same.
Okay. Somebody's asking, are they making it mandatory to take the vaccine?
I haven't heard anything about it being mandatory. Maybe Dr. Cousins has heard something. I think that the challenges that we're having with people accepting something as simple as a mask and the vaccines themselves, I think it would be counterproductive if we did make it mandatory. But I haven't heard that. Dr. Cousins may have heard something else since.
I haven't heard that, and I think that would be difficult to pull off in the free United States of America.
Okay. Well, now we've heard a lot about this vaccine or this virus attacking those of us who are older with underlying conditions. What about the children? What about the younger people? Do they have the same concerns as elderly people do? We've heard a lot of noise in the media about children. You don't have to worry about the children. They are immune to this and such. So could we speak to that? Because some people just say, don't worry about it if it's just the children.
Most of the studies have shown that children do not seem to be as susceptible to the symptoms from the virus, but they can be asymptomatic carriers of the virus. And so that's what makes them dangerous, because even though they don't have any symptoms from it, they take it back home to mom, or in a lot of situations today, grandma picks the kids up from school, or grandpa, because mom and dad are working. And so now you take an asymptomatic child who's carrying a pretty good, what I think the studies have shown too, is they carry a significant viral load within their nose, and then they hang out with grandma and grandpa and they spread it. And I think that's where the biggest issue has been, not that they have problems themselves, but that they are spreaders, asymptomatic carriers, and spread it. Although I caution you that there have been some instances of children 5 years of age, 7 years of age I've heard of, and 13 or 14 that have actually died from the virus. So I wouldn't dismiss it as being totally innocuous for children as well.
Okay. I think it was in the news just this morning that we had a 17-year-old pass away from this virus just today. Mm-hmm. Reverend Patterson, did you want to say anything else to that as well?
No, I've read a lot in terms of the impact or the lack thereof of children as it relates to the virus, but I don't have anything to add to that particular point.
As far as children and the vaccine, as of now, the FDA has said 16 years and older, but they do not recommend the vaccine be given to anyone less than 16 years of age. And I think they are also excluding pregnant women and women who may be breastfeeding, I think are also excluded from taking the virus out. They also had originally mentioned that if you'd had previous allergic reactions that you should not take the virus, but since then they've upgraded their recommendation, and now they say that you should, but you should take further precautions. So if you've had previous allergic reactions, they're going to watch you instead of about 15 minutes after you take the vaccine, they're going to watch you 30 minutes or so, and they'll have an EpiPen available and other support in case you do have an allergic reaction. They can treat you right away. Most of the reactions have been, I think only about 4 have been reported. There were 2 in the UK and 2 in Alaska among healthcare workers. 1 required hospitalization and basic support for having an anaphylactic reaction, which is basically an allergic reaction. You can imagine that if you're inoculating hundreds of millions of people around the world, that somebody may have an adverse reaction. Fortunately, none of them have been detrimental, and they all seem to be transient and are over in a short period of time, within a day or less. So I don't think that we should be afraid of the vaccine based on this present safety profile that is in place with over, tens of thousands of people having been vaccinated so far.
And I would add, Reverend Hill, we might be presently surprised in the opposite direction, because one of the things that happened in our African American Task Force meeting on Thursday was Jill Upson presented some research from, I think it was the Kaiser Family Foundation. We talked about 42% for the longest time in terms of people of color that were willing to take the vaccine. And she presented some research that said it was up to 67. And I remember just anecdotally, when I was first talking to people about the virus, not the virus, but the vaccine, a lot of folk were against it. But then the other day, I asked 7 pastors about taking it, and only one said no, that he would not take it. And the thing that I noticed, the common thing was that most of them were older and most of them had comorbidities. So I think that when people are looking at themselves and saying, okay, I'm 65, I'm 70 years old, and I have all these other conditions. So if I want to take a chance, I'd rather take a chance on taking this virus that everybody's saying is safe, or at least a substantial amount of researchers and physicians and healthcare professionals saying it's safe, or take my chances of catching this virus that I know how deadly that can be. So it may be people are changing their minds because if it's in their best interest. And if that's the reason, that's great. But I seem to be noticing a kind of a turn in our community, particularly with older people that have comorbidities. In terms of, we got the diabetes and heart problems and all the things that we have in our community. So maybe some people, I don't know what we're going to do as it relates to the 20-somethings and 30-somethings that are, view themselves as just supermen and superwomen. But we might be pleasantly surprised. I hope we will be, as it relates to people's willingness, to people of color willingness to take the vaccine.
Well, I think some of the change of heart and willingness to take it now versus before is just about everybody knows someone who's died of COVID now. And if they don't know someone who's died, they know somebody who suffered and told them about the experience that they thought they were going to die. And so I think it's changing a lot of people's minds too, the fact that, people that are dying from it.
Mm-hmm. What about those who have already had COVID and they've come through the worst of it now? They're on the other side. Should they now take the vaccine, or are they immune to the virus now that they've had it and they've gone through it? What's the advice in this area?
From the recommendations that I'm reading, they should also get a vaccination. They should speak with their primary care physician also for further information on that, or their infectious disease doctor. But the recommendation so far is that even if you've had COVID, you should get the vaccination. And the thought is that the vaccine causes the body to rev up a little bit more in terms of the memory cells that are needed if the virus is encountered again. And the vaccine seems to help the body produce more stable antibodies than the virus itself. So it's recommended that if you've had COVID, you should still take the vaccine.
Okay. Okay.
And the other big thing too is to keep in mind that even once you take the vaccine, particularly with the Pfizer vaccine, you need to take the second dose before your system is completely set up. That's why it's a 2-dose thing. And so during that time, and even after that time, keep your mask on, keep your hands clean, social distance, and stay at home other than for necessary activities.
Okay. You answered that, but the next question that was up there, would we need to take more than one dose? What's the actual procedure on that, and what's the time between doses? How long do you have to wait after the first dose before you get the next dose?
I've heard anywhere from 21 to 28 days that you need between the first and the second dose. When you go for the first dose, they're going to give you a vaccination card, and it will give you a date, a window of when you should come back for your second dose. And that's not uncommon either in taking vaccines. I recall very clearly when I had to take hepatitis B, that you have to take the initial shot and then you wait and you come back and take another shot. And then over time you get booster shots. And then they'll check your titers or the levels of antibodies that you have. And if they're low, sometimes you still get a booster. That's very common also with tetanus shot. If you've gone too long of a time period between your last tetanus shot to the time you stepped on this other rusty nail, then you may need to get another tetanus booster is what they call it. So it's not uncommon with vaccinations to have to take more than one shot. That seems to be strange to some people, but we've all been through these vaccines, even to get into public schools or to college and what have you. And all of a sudden, sometimes it seems like we forget that we had to take a booster shot.
Okay.
And we will, if protocol will allow. I'm new, and Dr. Cousins can understand this. I am new to medical protocols and all of that, and certain rules and regulations. And I took the HIPAA course, and it scared me to death at the end where it says, "Did you hear about so and so did such and such?" And we charged them $4 million and da da da. So there are certain protocols, but we will be registering people when we give them the first injection, and if they would commit that we could call them and let them know if when it was time for them to, in addition to the card, to give them a call to say it's time for your booster shot or it's time for the second dose, then we would be more than happy to do that kind of a thing.
Okay. Now let's just a hypothetical. Let's say I've went and I've had both my shots now. Do I stop wearing my mask now and put down my guards and just start going out just because I've had the mask? I don't have to worry about the virus no more just because I've had my shots.
Let me answer that. Reverend Hill, and I'll answer by telling you a conversation that I had with Dr. Cousins the other day. Okay. And so I was asking him these questions about the vaccine and everything, and he said he was going to take the vaccine, and then he said, "But I'm going to be wearing my mask for a long, long time." So if he's a physician and he has all this knowledge that we've experienced tonight about it, and he's saying that we should still wear our mask, I'm going to take my vaccine. I'm going to still social distance, and I'm still going to wear my mask until I'm sure that the vaccine is taking effect, and the majority of the population and those around me are starting to feel safe and that kind of thing. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll let Dr. Cousins answer for himself now.
Yeah, as I was telling Reverend Patterson, I plan to wear my mask maybe forever. And one of the reasons is because, it's been nice not having people spit in my face when I have conversations with them. It's something that we all do. I do it. Everybody do it. You try to make an S or a T or R, some spit comes out. It ends up on the person's face opposite you, or if you're the one receiving the conversation, it gets on your face. And so I'm sure you can think back to times over the years where you've gotten sick after someone coughed or sneezed or touched you too close in the elevator or doing what have you, and they coughed, and then a few days later you got the sniffles or pick up a cold. If you'd have had a mask on, you would have missed that sickness that you had. And so I'm thinking I'm going to be wearing my mask for a long, long time.
Amen. Now we are, as we said when we first come on, in the Black and brown community, in our community, there's a great hesitancy, great mistrust. The numbers right now are yet high, even though they look like they're coming down as far as people who are willing to take the vaccine in our community. I want to move to consequences. What are the consequences if the majority of those in our community refuse to take the vaccine? What are the perceived consequences for us? Let's speak to that if we can.
We're going to continue to pass the virus back and forth around the community. You know, whether you get to a point that people will continue to have this COVID fatigue, as they say, so they'll let their guards down. They'll continue to be asymptomatic carriers. As long as there's asymptomatic carriers around a group of people who haven't been vaccinated or haven't had the virus before, that virus is going to continue to spread. It's going to spread until there's no longer a host, because it wants to keep duplicating and it wants to keep going just like anything else. And so we get a mass of people who have been vaccinated or who have had the virus, then that's the only way really to cause it to die out. So the alternative is that it'll continue to circulate. The pandemic will linger on. We'll be restricted from our movements, from our businesses, and we'll continue to have a lower quality of life. Businesses will continue to close. The economy will continue to stall. And, here in West Virginia, we're already in poverty. We're already dealing with the lack of commerce and economy and all those types of things that we really need to get going again. And then, like Reverend Patterson said, just to be able to hug your loved ones. He's got grandkids. He wants to be able to hug them and kiss them and feel that it's safe for him and them. And so if we don't participate on a wide enough scale, this thing's going to linger on in the community and continue to be a pandemic for us.
Reverend Hill, the other morning, Clay Marsh went into his presentation, and he was talking about, he started talking about percentages, the increase of the likelihood of you having a bad outcome based on certain factors. And so he talked about all these factors, and say, for instance, if you got past 80, then your chances of having a bad outcome went 500-600%. And so he just went on, and that was recorded. So I'm pretty sure I have a recording of it. And then when he finished, later on that day, I was talking to another official, and the official said, suppose he had to put race in there, because he didn't. I mean, and he went on, and he didn't. It wasn't purposefully done, but he was talking about how difficult it was. Say, for instance, if you added age, then you added comorbidities, then you got past 80, and what the percentage is, it got up to 400% or 500%. But race wasn't in there. So I said that to say this: if a person, just an ordinary person who isn't a person of color, and who doesn't have all of the comorbidities, they still have a real good chance of having a terrible outcome or dying. And so then when you add the fact that I'm 69, I'm African American, I'm diabetic, I don't stand a chance of not taking the vaccine. My chances of having a real bad outcome if I contract this disease, they are really, really, really high up there. So what I am saying is that there's a possibility that we would have a bad outcome, even if we weren't people of color. And because we're people of color, that just increases our chances of having a really bad outcome 4 or 5 times. And we can say, okay, there are a lot of reasons we should not take the vaccine, but there are a lot of reasons that we should as well. So that's where I am on this whole thing. I'm just thrilled at the chance that there is a vaccine out there that can that can help me have continued better outcomes, because I still got stuff to do. You know, I want to go to heaven, but not right now.
Reverend Patterson, I want to direct this question to you because you said that PAC is going to shortly here be disseminating this vaccine.
And Reverend Hill, I don't want to say shortly, because I don't want to get people's hopes up and have people thinking that we're going to have it tomorrow. So
Okay.
we are going to ultimately have it when the supply starts to come into West Virginia, and the supply is regular. I'm sure that PAC will have access to the vaccine, but I don't know that shortly. I don't know what the time schedule is,
Okay.
and but PAC will have it. So you can ask your question now in terms of,
Okay.
of how we'll do it or what have you.
Well, my question, as far as PAC, I know it should be a national answer, but as far as PAC, one of our viewers want to know: is there going to be a cost for the vaccine itself?
No, nothing we've done to date has had a cost to it. There isn't a cost when we do our test. We are on the state's contract for the test supplies, and then the state does the back end as well through all these labs that the state has on contract. So we don't have a cost for that. If there is something, for example, if there's the flu vaccine, if a person has insurance or what have you, we would have an opportunity to bill for that. I think that reimbursement is $20 or something like that. But to answer the question specifically, I don't know if there is there as far as I know, there will be no cost to the vaccine. What state, local, and federal officials are concerned about, they are concerned about the death rate, and they're concerned about the economy, and they're concerned about all kinds of things. We heard today and yesterday on the bill that the Congress is working on right now, that they were including funding for vaccinations as well as for transportation and all those things. So as long as the federal government is trying its best to get the country moving again, so they are willing to spend a few dollars to try to make sure that the population is vaccinated.
Amen. Amen. Dr. Cousins, I know you spoke to this a little bit a minute ago. I'm going to give you this last question, and then after this question, I'm going to allow you brothers just to give us a parting comment, whatever it is that's on your heart that you feel needs to be said before we leave here. One of our viewers just says that they have a a valve replacement, and they have COPD. Should they take this vaccine?
I would say yes. Because of your pre-existing conditions, COVID would be very rough on you. And so I would say that you should get the vaccine and continue to wear your mask, social distancing, and stay away from people. That's something you can do routinely throughout cold and flu season with the pre-existing conditions that you have. But I would encourage you to get the vaccine as soon as it's available to you.
Amen. Gentlemen, I want to thank both of you for coming on here. I believe that you've done a great job as far as trying to educate and put out some information. I believe one of the greatest things in our community that's keeping people from even thinking about receiving this vaccine is just a lack of knowledge, not being educated as to what's going on. I think fear is taking over where we should be educating ourselves. And I think that tonight you brothers have done a good job with that. So with that, what I want to do, I want to give you an opportunity right now as we close to leave with a parting message or statement that you would like to make. And we'll start with you, Reverend Patterson, if you don't mind.
I would just like to say that this has been one of the most difficult times that I can remember, and just to stand back and see the detrimental impact that this is having on me, my family, and all the people that I love and care about. And I believe that the vaccine that's available and that is safe and that we should avail ourselves of it so that we can protect ourselves and those that we love, and get back to some sense of regular living and enjoying ourselves. So that's my parting comment.
Okay. Dr. Cussy?
I think that people should pay attention to what's going on, that there is so much COVID out there now. It's pretty much everywhere you go, and that the numbers are really bad. The death rate every day, over 3,000 people are dying every day in the United States of America. I think that's that's horrible. It's not something that should be happening. It's something that could be prevented if people were to be smart, if they were to wear their masks, if they would stop congregating, having parties and things along that line. I think you got to be very careful to have, to keep people who don't live in your immediate home away for this holiday. I know it's hard, but hopefully through Zoom and FaceTime and other things, we can resist the temptation to gather in large groups, because COVID will be there. And it's likely now, based on what I think Governor Justice said, it's going to be March potentially before the vaccine is available to the general public here in West Virginia. And so between now and that time, there will be hundreds of thousands of people who will receive this vaccine. So that'll give you some more time to see if there are any adverse reactions or things along that line. But I think the vaccine is much safer bet than COVID-19. So I'd encourage you to get it. And in the meantime, and even after you get it, continue to wear your mask, keep your hands clean and out of your face, social distance, and take care of your loved ones. And thank you, Reverend Hill and Reverend Patterson, for allowing me to participate with this conversation.
Thank you for being on. But I'm thank you.
I appreciate both of you, brothers. And I want to say thank you to those of you who joined in with us tonight, to those of you, our viewers. And I want to encourage you. We're going to post this up so that you can go back and look at it later on. We want to encourage you, as we said, get all the information that you can get, because this is a decision that you're going to have to make for yourself. This is your life, but it's also the lives of those that you love, that you are around. Those lives are at stake as well. So I want to encourage you to listen to the information, educate yourself about what's going on. Let's not forget that tonight we will not be doing our 10 o'clock Come Aside program. I want to encourage you to remember that. Thank God for each and every one of you. Brothers, you don't know how much I appreciate you. I'm in your debt. So God bless each and every one of you. God bless all of you, our viewers. God bless you. Let's have a good night. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Good night.